everyone, welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Jada. A few months ago, I spent the whole evening studying for an exam the next morning. When I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, I went to bed. I don't know how long I slept, but I woke up to the loudest alarm I'd ever heard. When I opened my eyes, I saw an alarm clock next to my bed. It said 2 a.m., but that was weird because I hadn't put it there. I hit the off button, but it kept ringing. I was still very sleepy. I could barely keep my eyes open as I looked around. I saw another alarm clock on my desk, so that must have been the one ringing. I got up and turned that one off as well, but the alarm still kept going off. I was going crazy. What was up with all the clocks in my room? Was I dreaming? Suddenly, the lights went on. My sister Melissa was at the door. Apparently, she'd been watching me the whole time. She started laughing. Meanwhile, the alarm was still going off. As I looked around, I saw yet another clock on the side table. When I hit the button on that one, it finally went quiet. So that was the clock that had been ringing the whole time. Melissa had pulled a prank on me, and she was laughing like crazy. She had placed 3 clocks in different spots around the room, and the one that was actually ringing was the one furthest from the bed. She had really enjoyed herself watching me trying to figure that out. I was so mad. "This is not funny at all. What do you think you're doing?" I yelled at her. Just then, our mom walked in. "Jada, why are you yelling in the middle of the night? Your sister is having a little fun. You have no sense of humor. Maybe you could relax a little and laugh too," she said. I had an important exam the next morning. I had woken up from my sleep in a panic, but my mom was defending her favorite daughter as she always did. I said, "No, Mom, I don't have a sense of humor. That's why I can't laugh at stupid pranks. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going back to sleep," and went back to bed. Melissa is only 3 years younger than me. Everyone tells me I'm very mature for my age. Melissa, on the other hand, is just the opposite. She's very childish. Actually, she takes after our mom. They're really similar in other ways, too. My sister both looks and acts like our mom, while I'm more like our dad. Our parents got divorced 5 years ago. Now they hate each other. I think I remind my mom of my dad every time she looks at me. That is why she's annoyed with me. And that's why she likes Melissa more than me. In fact, she doesn't like me at all. She only likes her. Melissa is obviously aware that she's Mom's favorite, and she takes advantage of that all the time. One morning, she asked our mom for pancakes. Mom said, "I don't have time now. I'll make them for you tomorrow." Melissa mumbled, "Nobody loves me," and started crying. So Mom took the day off from work. "Oh, honey, I love you so much," she said through tears, and started making pancakes. To be honest, all this doesn't really bother me anymore. I got used to it. My mom has made it clear she prefers my sister a long time ago. Since I can't change her, I'm trying to see this in a positive light. Yes, I felt rejected, but this made me a stronger, more resilient person. One day, Melissa came running to my room. She was holding the latest iPhone. She said, "Do you like my new phone? I can give you my old one if you want. It's still better than yours." She wanted to make me jealous, but I didn't give her the satisfaction. I put on a smile and said, "Awesome, enjoy." But I was really pissed. I was still using my dad's old phone, while my mom bought Melissa 2 new phones in 2 years. And the one she just got was the iPhone I'd been dreaming of. My mom complains about money all the time. She always says she has nothing left after paying the rent and the bills, but when Melissa asks for something, nothing else matters. I found out that Melissa went to her in tears asking for a new phone. Mom had to borrow money from a friend to buy her the newest iPhone. I was thinking about this that night. Suddenly, I jumped to my feet. Melissa needs Mom, but I don't need anyone. I can buy my own phone myself, I thought. I went online and started looking for part-time jobs. After searching for a while, I figured out that it would be best for me to be a dog walker. It was fairly easy. You pick up the dog, you walk it, and then you drop it off. The dog's owner would pay you for the time you spent with the dog. I love dogs very much. This is a great gig. I'll make money and have fun, too, I said to myself as I wrote down the phone numbers from the ads. I started calling next day after school. The first person I called had already found a dog walker. I called the next number and a woman answered. I told her I was calling about the ad. She told me to come over. I went to the address, which turned out to be an optical store. The woman I had talked to met me at the door with her dog. She gave me a frisbee and said, "Honey, please wear this monster out. He needs to release all his energy. He's been following me around all day." The dog's name was Max, and he couldn't sit still. There was a park nearby. It was clear that Max loved the frisbee. He couldn't keep his eyes off it. I threw it to him. He jumped really high and caught it. Then he brought it to me. I noticed something while playing with Max. He was only able to catch the frisbee about half the time. I thought he should be able to catch it more often. Even though he jumped really high every time, for some reason he was missing a lot of my throws. I started watching him closely as I was throwing him the frisbee. Again, he missed it a few times, but I'd figured out why. He had to squint because of the sun. He couldn't catch the frisbee because he couldn't see it well. The name of Max's human was Zoe. As I was dropping Max off, I told her about what I saw at the park. "You own an optical store. If you can find a pair of sunglasses for Max, we can try them on him tomorrow. That way the sun won't bother him and he'll catch the frisbee every time," I said. Zoe smiled. "Sunglasses for a dog? I don't think Max will like that very much, but I'll try to find something," she said. The next day, when I came to pick up Max, he was wearing sunglasses. Zoe said, "What do you think? These are actually for kids, but they fit Max perfectly." I secured them to the back of his head with an elastic band. Max looked kind of funny, but I was sure this would work. I took him to the park. Thanks to the sunglasses, the sun didn't bother him anymore. He caught the frisbee every time. More importantly, he was so much happier than the day before. I took some videos of him. I showed them to Zoe as I was dropping him off. She was really surprised. "Those sunglasses don't bother him at all. He seems really happy," she said. That night at dinner, I told my mom about it. She said, "Jada, this is the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard in my life. If that poor dog could talk, he'd tell you it was stupid," and laughed. Melissa laughed at me as well. I was really upset. I said, "Sorry, my fault. Why would I ever tell you anything?" and got up from the dinner table. After school, when I went to pick up Max again, Zoe said, "Jada, can you come in for a minute? There's something important I want to talk to you about." I was curious. We went to her office. I couldn't imagine that this conversation would change my life. She said, "I have a friend who is a veterinarian. She came over last night. I told her about Max's sunglasses. She loved the idea of sunglasses for dogs. She told me there's definitely a need for it. Dogs have very sensitive eyes. In the summer, the sun bothers them, and in the winter, the snow. You can patent this idea and create a brand of sunglasses for dogs. I'm sure it would be a huge hit." I thought about it all night. I think it's a great idea, but it's your idea, and that's why I'd like us to be business partners. What do you think? I was really surprised. "Of course, I'd love to do it. Thank you for looking out for me," I said. Zoe said, "And I want to thank you for this wonderful idea. We will need to sign certain contracts to become partners. But since you are underage, we need permission from one of your parents." I knew that my mom would probably say no to something like this, but my dad would definitely support it. I told her, "No problem at all. My dad will come by as soon as he can." The following weeks were like a dream. Our doggy sunglasses idea was an instant hit. Our sales blew up as soon as we released them. My dad and I opened a bank account. Zoe began to transfer my portion of the money into the account. Soon, I had $2 million. My mom had no idea what was going on. It's time to tell her, I thought. That was also the day I left home. I went to my room and packed a suitcase. Melissa and my mom were playing a board game in the living room. They stopped and looked at me when I walked in. They seemed upset. My mom asked, "Where do you think you're going?" Gesturing towards my suitcase. "I'm going to live with my dad from now on. I see that you two are doing well as usual. I don't think you'll even notice that I'm gone," I said. My mom did not respond. Melissa had a grin on her face. It upset me that Mom didn't say anything. I forced a smile and said, "By the way, the idea of doggy sunglasses which you made fun of wasn't so ridiculous after all. I'm rich now thanks to that idea. I bought a house. That's where my dad and I are going to live." My mom was obviously shocked. I left before she could say anything. My driver was waiting outside. He opened the car door for me. Mom and Melissa followed me outside. They were shocked when they saw the luxury car. My mom said angrily, "Jada, if you're rich, then you owe me part of this money. I'm your mom. How come it's the first I'm hearing of this?" "You don't know anything because you only care about Melissa," I replied. My mom changed her strategy after that, saying, Jada, my love, why are you talking like this? Both of you are my daughters. I might have paid a little more attention to Melissa because she's younger, but you are my daughter too. I knew my mom was only saying this because she wanted my money. We both knew that Melissa was and would always be her favorite. I hopped into the car. The driver closed the door. I could no longer hold back my feelings. Tears started pouring down my face. My mom couldn't love me simply because I was her daughter. She needed a reason to love me, and it hurt me deeply to know that the only reason she could love me was money.
I jumped out of bed as soon as my phone alarm went off. I'd been consistently waking up at 2 a.m. to play Roblox until about 5 in the morning. Then I'd go back to bed and sleep until it was time for school. I was so sleepy during the day, but I would still wake up at night to play Roblox because I enjoyed it so much. One night, while playing Roblox in the dark in a total trance, the light in my room suddenly turned on. I got caught. I turned my head, shivering with fear. My parents stood in the doorway. My mom sounded disappointed. "Honey, I can't believe it. Are you so addicted to your games that you have to sneak in the middle of the night? How long has this been going on?" she asked. My dad was absolutely furious.
"Ricky, from now on, no more video games for you. You're not allowed anywhere near the computer. I'm confiscating your phone as well," he yelled.
My parents had a right to be angry with me. To be honest, I was going crazy with Roblox. Over the next few days, my Roblox addiction started getting to me. I couldn't think of anything but Roblox. "Please let me play for an hour after school," I pleaded with my parents. "I promise I'll never play anything more than that." But they wouldn't listen. I begged them so much that my dad finally gave in under one condition. I had to do chores in exchange for time playing Roblox. An hour of helping earned me 15 minutes to play Roblox. This meant that I had to work 4 hours to play Roblox for just one. Sounds strict, I know, but what choice did I have? After getting home from school, I cleaned out the garage, mowed the lawn, and did a bunch of laundry. That hour of Roblox after work had never been so much fun. One day, my dad said,
"Since you've taken such good care around the house, I have an offer for you. You know that your grandma lives alone. How do you feel about earning more Roblox hours doing her chores?"
I always loved going to my grandmother's house. I'd take any excuse to see her more. "I'd be happy to help out," I said. But I paused for a moment, thinking about how I could sweeten the deal. "It takes a half hour to get to Grandma's by bus. You've got yourself a deal if you count my time on the bus toward my chore time," I replied.
"Deal," my dad said, laughing. "I like this Roblox game. It definitely keeps you productive."
When I got to Grandma's, I told her about my agreement with my dad. "Great," she laughed. "Actually, there's not much work to do in my house. You can do my grocery shopping, some minor chores, and sit and watch TV with me. The last part can be our little secret." On the days I went to Grandma's, I never felt tired. I'd quickly finish a few chores, and she'd make popcorn on the stovetop. Then the two of us would watch a movie on Netflix. Thanks to my grandma, earning Roblox hours was easy. One afternoon, while getting her groceries, I noticed that most of the items on her list were for me. I immediately recognized the ingredients for Grandma's famous cinnamon rolls. She made them just the way I liked them when I got back. That day, as I was leaving, she said, "Rent's due today. Do you mind heading to the ATM and dropping my rent at the front office? But then I'll have your card until my next visit. Are you sure you won't need it?" I asked her. "I've got everything I need here at home, thanks to you. Plus, I only use that card to get cash for the rent. You can keep the card and give it back to me next time you're here," she replied. I needed the password for the card to take out the money. I was surprised to find out that it was my birth year. Knowing Grandma had picked my birth year instead of any of her other grandkids made me proud. I had to ask why. "Maybe it's because you're my favorite grandchild. What do you think?" she said, giving me a big hug. I knew my grandmother loved me, but that was the first time I realized I was her favorite. I left her house and went to the closest ATM to get the money. Then I went to her building's management office and paid her rent. I took the bus back home. While playing Roblox later that night, I remembered a new game my friends mentioned at school. I was disappointed to learn it was paid, and even though I had previously bought some paid games on Roblox, none of them were this expensive. That's when I got an idea. I still had Grandma's card. I could just buy some Robux and explain during my next visit. She'd understand. After all, I was her favorite grandchild. I needed 1,700 Robux for the game, which cost about $20 on my grandma's card. The next evening, I saw another paid game on Roblox. I'd already registered my grandma's debit card to my account. I figured it would be okay to spend more of her money since she loved me. That's what I told myself as I bought 4,500 Robux. Unfortunately, the same thing happened the following evening. I can spend however much I want from my grandma's card, I told myself. I'm her favorite grandchild. I'm sure she'll be happy to find out I'm having so much fun with my favorite game. I bought 20,000 Robux with my grandma's debit card that night and spent it all on masks, hats, t-shirts, and games. When I went to do my grandma's chores, I gave her debit card back. "You can keep it and pay the rent again next month," she said. I felt incredibly guilty, but I'd spent so much money from her bank account that I was too ashamed to say anything. All I was able to manage was, "You keep the card. I don't feel comfortable carrying it around." As I was leaving, Grandma asked, "Ricky, is everything okay with you today? Or did something happen at home?" I forced a smile and said, "No, it's all good." "Oh, I'm so glad. You're such a good boy. I'd do anything to see you happy," she said, giving me a big hug. It wouldn't have been an issue if I had stopped there. Yes, I would have let Grandma down, but I'm sure she would have forgiven me. Unfortunately, I didn't stop. Grandma's card was linked to my Roblox account. This meant that I could spend as much as I wanted, and that's exactly what I did, recklessly. I was out of control. I kept buying Robux non-stop, spending it on trivial things as if Roblox had possessed me. One night, when I tried to buy more Robux, I got an error message saying, "Not enough funds in your bank account." That was the moment I realized I'd wasted every cent Grandma had. The worst part was the rent was due the next day. When I arrived at Grandma's, I forced myself to ring the bell. I was sure she would send me to pay the rent at some point. There weren't many errands to run that day. Grandma treated me to her fantastic cooking, and we had such a great time together. But the moment I feared most arrived as I was leaving. She handed me her debit card and said, "Ricky, would you please get the money from the ATM and pay the rent?" I took the card without saying anything. As soon as I was outside, I couldn't contain myself. I started crying. There was no point in going to the ATM because there was no money left in Grandma's bank account. I had spent it all, down to the last penny. I wasn't going to be able to pay Grandma's rent. She'd get evicted from her house because of me. My thoughts rushed to find a solution, but I couldn't think of anything. When I got back home, my eyes were puffy and red from crying. When my mom saw me, she was worried. "Ricky, what's wrong, honey?" she asked. My dad was also curious to hear what I had to say. At that moment, I knew there was no other way out of this. The tears started flowing again. "I'm so sorry. I did something terrible. Grandma asked me to get the money from her bank account to pay her rent, but I couldn't do it because I spent all of the money in her account on Roblox," I said. Dad gave me a wild-eyed look.
"What do you mean? Why did you have your grandma's money in the first place?" he asked.
"She gave me her debit card. I put her card info on my Roblox account. I don't even know how much I've spent, but whatever amount she had in that account is long gone," I sobbed. My mom stood in shock. "Am I hearing this correctly? Did you really just go and spend all of that poor woman's life savings on a game?" I didn't have anything to say. I simply nodded in shame.
"I can't allow someone so irresponsible to live in this house. You're not our son anymore. We're disowning you," my dad screamed.
I had no idea his reaction would be so extreme. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I'll never touch Roblox again. Please forgive me," I begged. "Don't apologize to us. Go apologize to your grandmother. Your father's right. We can't let you live in this house anymore," Mom agreed. That night, my parents disowned me. I had nowhere to go but Grandma's. I owed her a big apology. I had to confess everything and ask her to forgive me. When I made it to Grandma's, she welcomed me with all smiles. "Oh, Ricky, you poor dear. Your dad called me and told me everything. Come on in. You can stay with me until we get this mess sorted," she said. "But Grandma, I spent all of your money. How are you going to pay rent? Where are we going to go? I'm so sorry for what I did. Please forgive me." I started mumbling through my tears. She said, "Oh, I've known about that this whole time. When you made your first purchase, I got a notification from the bank. At first, I didn't pay much attention, but the messages kept coming. I called the bank and transferred my money into a different account. By the time I was able to stop it, You had managed to spend $1,800. I can't imagine how a smart young man spends that much on a game, but I'm glad that you finally saw your mistake. I couldn't believe it, but having her forgiveness was such a relief. Grandma, you have no idea how much this means to me. I was so scared that I had spent all of the money you had, I said, hugging her tightly. I've been living with my grandmother since that day. I've entirely cut Roblox out of my life, as you might have guessed. I've been working part-time after school. I'm determined to pay back the $1,800 I spent, even if it takes months. My parents are still mad at me, and they have every right to be. I miss them a lot. Hopefully, they can find it in their hearts to forgive me one day.
When I was younger, I used to think of myself as the hero from the fairy tale The Ugly Duckling. Everyone around me thought of me as the ugly duckling. But I was sure I was going to wake up someday as perfect white swan, just like in the fairy tale. When that day arrived and I turned into a beauty, everyone who mocked me because of my looks would regret it. But as I grew older, I found out this was simply a fairy tale. I was all grown up, but I didn't get any prettier. I had thick glasses, my acne wasn't going anywhere. I had a big, pointy nose. My teeth were huge. I figured out that if you were born as an ugly duckling, you'll stay an ugly duckling all your life. I was so self-conscious about how I looked. I even brushed my teeth in the kitchen sink so that I wouldn't look at myself in the mirror in the morning. Whenever I saw a pretty girl coming towards me, I walked the other way in order to not see how beautiful she was up close. But all of that is in the past now. A miracle happened to me when I least expected it, and my life changed completely. Last year, we celebrated my birthday with my family, as we always do. Just as I was about to blow out the candles, my mom stopped me. "Honey, you haven't made your wish," she said. "Mom, I've been making a wish every birthday for the past 14 years. I think at this point we should just accept that this is superstition," I replied. Mom insisted. "Maybe only the wishes that you make on your 15th birthday come true. You can never find out unless you try. Come on now, close your eyes and reach deep into your heart for a wish." I couldn't say no to my mom, so I did what she told me to do. You may have guessed what my wish could be. I had already wished for the same thing for the past 5 birthdays. I said to myself, I want to be a pretty girl. No, hold on. I don't want to be pretty. I want to be gorgeous. And blew out the candles. The next morning, I woke up to go to school. I was watching stuff on YouTube while brushing my teeth in the kitchen sink. My mom came into the kitchen. "Good morning, beauty," she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek. Beauty? My mom always calls me smart, never beautiful. Until today, I'd never heard her call me beauty. I was both surprised and a bit upset, wondering if she was teasing me. I looked down at my phone to continue watching the video. I touched my eyes in disbelief. I didn't have my glasses on. How was I able to see the phone screen then? I looked up and around. I could see everything very clearly. I didn't quite know how, but I had no issues with my vision anymore. My mom had called me a beauty, and my eyesight had improved. What if I was going through other changes? I screamed, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" and ran to the bathroom in shock. I was so scared to look in the mirror, but when I did, a gorgeous girl was staring back at me. That pretty girl had to be me. "No way! I must be dreaming," I said, pinching myself. "Ah!" I screamed in pain. Since it hurt quite a lot, I knew I wasn't dreaming. I went back to the kitchen. My mom was acting normal, as if I'd always been this pretty. "Mommy?" I said. My mom looked up from the omelets she was making and said, "Yes, honey?" "Is there anything different about me this morning?" I asked. My mom looked at me very carefully. Then she examined my arms and legs. She turned back to my face again. "Like what? I don't see anything," she responded. I almost fainted. It was incredible, but my birthday wish had come true. Just like I wished, I'd become a very pretty girl. My ugly duckling phase was a thing of the past. I was now Molly the Swan. Since my mom thought I'd always looked this way, I couldn't tell her about how my wish came true. If I told her, she would think I was unwell. In that case, there was only one thing I had to do: enjoy being pretty. I planted a kiss on my mom's cheek and got ready at once. I was so curious about how it felt to be a beautiful girl, and I could only find out by living it. As I entered through the school gate, I looked around. Just like I dreamt of, everyone had their eyes on me. Some were taking quick glances, some were simply staring. Girls with envy, boys with admiration, at me, the prettiest girl in school, at Molly the Swan. I was about to make my entrance into class when my math teacher, Mr. Goodwin, caught my eye. "Molly, do you mind coming to my office for a second? There's something I need to talk to you about," he said. I followed him. "Molly, I graded your exam last night. It seemed to me like, how should I put this? It seemed too good to be true. Now, I'll be honest with you. Please don't take this personally, but those questions were really difficult. I don't think you could solve them all. Did you cheat?" I was really surprised. I've always been good at math, but it was the first time Mr. Goodwin was having this talk with me. "Mr. Goodwin, I don't know what makes you think this, but you can rest assured I did not cheat," I replied. Mr. Goodwin was looking at me incredulously. At that moment, a light bulb went off in my head. I knew why my teacher thought I cheated. For him, I couldn't be this good at math because I was a pretty girl. Oh my gosh, Mr. Goodwin thought I couldn't be smart because I was pretty. Actually, I couldn't really blame him because I mistakenly thought the same thing until today. Whenever I looked at a pretty girl with envy, I would tell myself, "You're pretty, but I'm smart." But now others were thinking the same about me. This upset me a lot. I went back to the classroom in a bad mood. I walked up to my girlfriends. I was going to tell them about what Mr. Goodwin had just told me, but for some reason, they were quiet when they saw me. Chloe, whom I adore, looked at me and said, "Yes? Chloe, is there a problem?" was all I was able to utter. Chloe replied irritatedly, "No, I don't have a problem with you. I was just wondering why you would come to us. You always hang out with your popular friends. To what do we owe this pleasure, Your Highness?" I was shocked. "Hey, it's me, Molly. Where is this coming from? You know I'm not like that," I said. Another friend said, "Molly, did you just decide you wanted to be an angel from now on?" You're exactly how Chloe described you. I don't even remember you saying hi to us ever, until today. I teared up but managed to hold back the tears. Of course, I knew that the prettiest girls in school always hung out together, so I was one of those. Apparently, when my birthday wish came true, my past also changed accordingly. Pretty Molly had a whole different life. I was now one of those pretty girls I had been annoyed with. Everything ugly Molly had been through had simply disappeared. Her past was all replaced by Pretty Molly's past. That day was one of the most unpleasant days of my life. I dreamt of the first day I would become a pretty girl, but this wasn't at all what I'd expected. I'm not going to lie, I was still so happy with how I looked. I admired my face all night with a hand mirror. I was truly gorgeous. I said to myself, I've dreamt of looking like this for years. If what I went through today is the price of being pretty, I'm ready to accept it. Tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day. No matter what happens, I will enjoy being beautiful. Unfortunately, the next day was more of the same. In the morning, the popular girls of the school greeted me at the gate. When they saw me, they made weird yelps and gave me fake kisses. Oh, geez. Just like Chloe had said, I was one of those annoying girls indeed. The worst part was that I found out that I was best friends with Patricia, their leader. She stood up in front of me. OMG, girl, you look so fine. I'm glad you're my best friend. Otherwise, I'd literally be so jealous. Because of you, I'm literally the second prettiest girl in school. Come on, buy me a milkshake and I'll forgive you for it, she said, giving me a hug. Patricia was at the top of the list of girls I was annoyed with. How could I be best friends with this girl? Normally, this was impossible, but whether I liked it or not, the prettier version of Molly was in this friend group, and her best friend was Patricia. I wasn't able to sleep that night. I loved being pretty, but pretty Molly and real Molly were two different people. It was impossible to reconcile them. Okay, so what would I do now? The only solution I could think of was to wish to go back to my original self on my next birthday. But my birthday was a year away. It was impossible for me to keep on living as Pretty Molly. I had to do something before my sweet 16th. I decided to take the easiest path I could think of. I was going to hide my beauty. First of all, I had to wear glasses again. My eyesight was fine, but still, I went and got myself some non-prescription reading glasses with thick frames. Next, thanks to YouTube special effects makeup tutorial videos, I learned how to make acne. You heard that right. I am going to school with fake acne makeup now. I also got myself a lot of loose-fitting clothes. All the girls in my group, including Patricia, were really surprised to see the new me. I didn't look like them anymore. They stopped being friends with me immediately. I had a long talk with the girls in my class, telling them how much I had changed, how I wasn't that awful person anymore. They were skeptical at first, but my persistence worked. Finally, they were convinced, and we were friends again. I can't wait for my 16th birthday. On my birthday, I'll make another wish and ask to go back to my original looks to be real Molly again. I hope I can get the same miracle my wish comes true. I missed her so much. I can't wait to get back to her.